Welcome to r/ProRevenge. Today we have 2 more stories involving vengeance. Let's get to it. Story number 1. How I made money and ruined my ex-crush's life. So once upon a time, I was in love. I met a girl who shall be named R, short for Mothered, Broken Porcelain. What a dreadful video game. We met in college and became fast friends. I fell for her, but she wasn't interested. Sad, but I understand. I have a face only a pit bull would love, and my personality isn't particularly charming either. She ended up telling me of a guy she liked and asked for my input. Having moved on at the time, I said go for it. I'm sure he likes you too. So, for a week, after she tells me she is going to confess to him, she wouldn't talk to me at all. I message her asking what happened, and R decides to cuss me out and blame me for ruining her life. Turns out the guy she liked was gay and only saw her as a friend. I get mad and tell her she is acting ridiculous and that it's not my fault the guy wasn't interested in her. After some choice words, we stopped talking to each other for the next year. I changed colleges in the meantime. On my birthday the following year, my birthday party was interrupted by a knock at the door. The police. I had made a false report to the police claiming that I had put her phone number on a website popular with escorts. We never traded phone numbers. Obviously, I proved this was untrue by presenting my search history, and they left. With the mood of the party ruined, I messaged her on Facebook demanding to know why she did this to me and cussed her out, but there was no reply. A couple of months later, I was walking home from my new college. I was arrested for stalking her, even though I had cut contact with her after she falsely called the cops on me before. I explained to the police what happened and everything leading up to the arrest, but while they were understanding, my country's stalking laws are very loose. In short, any unwanted communication by any means counts as stalking, no matter what the context may be, even if it was one message sent over Facebook. I was fined £300, which I couldn't afford as a student. I had to sell my PS4 and almost all of my games, and warned that I was to never contact her. No problem. I wanted nothing to do with her anyway. I was upset and had to go to therapy because I had never been given a criminal record before, and the whole ordeal had spiraled me into a deep depression. I know it's stupid, but I even tried to take my own life. My doctor prescribed me antidepressants, but they only made me feel worse. It took years to get back on my feet, but eventually I met great people, reconnected with old friends, and now my depression is a lot better than it was before. Now the revenge begins. Sort of. I didn't initially intend to get revenge, but I was given the opportunity by an unlikely ally, the guy I had a crush on. Let's call him K. He was dating one of my friends when we first met up. As it turned out, she also reported him to the police for allegedly posting her phone number on an escort site and reported him for stalking. I still had a crush on K and would occasionally drunkenly message him on Facebook, asking him to stop being gay and love me. K wanted to get her for stalking, just like she did to us, but I convinced him to do one better. He replied to one of her drunken rants and managed to do something that made this a postable story. She confessed that she lied to the police about the escort story. Not only that, but even admitted why she reported both of us for stalking. COVID delayed it a bit, but let's just say that the trial went very well. Edit. Forgot to add that I was awarded nearly 3 times the amount I lost when I was charged, and I was given a criminal record. To add insult to injury, me and Kay filed a restraining order against her, which, if her Facebook posts are to be believed, costed her a job interview. Edit 2. I apologize for not being more clear. The stalking law can be found in section 39 of the Criminal Justice and Licensing Act of 2010 for Scotland. And yes, the law is written very vaguely, meaning this can and has happened. My lawyer told me of someone who gave flowers to someone he just met, and she had him arrested for stalking. Story number 2. Accuse me of stealing, you will lose everything. First post. Be kind. This happened way back in the dark ages, 1986. I was 21 at the time and working for a gas station that was associated with a certain grocery store chain in Washington state. It was owned by a company not affiliated with said chain, but had locations at nearly every one. As this was long before the days of debit cards, This was a cash-only gas station. We didn't even take credit cards. Customers would pull up, pump their gas, and then come to my window to pay. We also sold cigarettes. No drinks, no snacks. Customers couldn't even get into my booth. I had been working there about a year when the company announced it was closing the location. My manager and I were offered positions at another location upstate, and we both accepted. We moved our respective families and started on new jobs. As new hires, this station was incredibly busy. We did more business in 8 hours than my old location would do in a week. This location also had a different setup. Here you would pull into the station from a single entrance, pump your gas, and then drive forward to a single exit where the pay here booth was located. There were always 2 cashiers on duty. Each cashier had a cash drawer. One thing I should note, there were also no computers. So, closing the drawer down between shifts was time consuming and tedious. We had to manually count the cigarettes remaining and count the cash drawers. We would fill out an end of shift report, listing the starting balances and the ending balances. We also had to list the gallons sold from each pump. At the end of the shift, the total of gallons sold and the total cigarettes sold should equal the cash balance. It is important to note here that not once in the year I had worked for the previous location had I been off by more than 10 cents. The following morning after my first shift, I was informed by the manager that I was short $50. Impossible, I said. I balanced out yesterday. He said that I must have stolen that money after I had completed the paperwork. I just looked at him and said, no, I didn't. He gave me a verbal warning and said if it happened again, I would be fired and the stolen money would be deducted from my paycheck this week. In the 5 days that followed, I realized quickly the manager was up to something. My old manager, who was just another worker now, was also accused of stealing, as was one other new employee. I can't vouch for the other employee, but I'm pretty sure she did nothing wrong. The employees that had been there a while were never accused of anything. I did some checking and found out this manager was relatively new, had only been there about 6 months, and the other cashiers had been here before him. Only new cashiers were being accused of stealing, and that location had been having stealing problems for about 6 months, and the turnover was high with the new employees. I came to work at 6 AM on a Monday, only to be told I was being fired. For cause. The manager accused me of taking $500 out of my drawer the previous Friday. He said he only discovered it this morning, even though he had worked Saturday and Sunday. I said okay and left. I was pretty angry, and instead of going home, I parked in the grocery store parking lot and proceeded to settle in to watch the gas station. I knew that at 9 AM sharp, he would take the cash in the safe and make the weekend deposit. At 9 AM he left the gas station and headed to the bank. But instead of walking into the bank, he walked into the Indian casino next door. It's not really a casino like we think of today, but more of a betting parlor for the races. It did have slot machines, but no card tables. I think, well, this is interesting. He comes out of the casino at exactly 10 AM, walks next door to the bank, does his business, and then heads back to the gas station. I head home with a plan. Every morning I follow him from the gas station to the casino. I take a picture of him leaving, and one of him arriving at the bank, and walking into the casino. I take pictures of him coming out, and then heading to the bank. I do this for 5 days straight. He even went on Saturday. On day 3, my old manager was fired for stealing $150. I get the film developed. No digital camera in the dark ages. Note the times and dates on the back of each one. Then I call the main office of the gas company. It's after 5, but I'm hoping someone is there. And there is. I speak to a woman and explain my situation, and she says she knows exactly who I should speak to and transfers me. By some grace of God, she has transferred me to none other than the president/CEO of the company. I tell him my story and tell him I did not steal from his company and could prove who actually did. He took down my information and said he would be in touch. I'm thinking to myself, yeah right. The next morning, I went to the station to perform my usual observation of the manager. At 9 AM he leaves for the bank. At 10 AM he comes out. At that moment 2 stern-looking gentlemen approach him. One pulls out his wallet and shows him something. The other one is talking. The manager goes pale and takes a step back. Next thing I know he is being escorted to a car I hadn't noticed, and they drive off. I lose them at a traffic signal, so I head back to the station. They all show back up about 5 minutes later, and a few minutes after that, a police cruiser pulls in. The officer talks to the stern gentleman and proceeds to place the manager in handcuffs. The other man says nothing but is glaring daggers at the manager. The president called me later that afternoon and informed me that the manager had been arrested for embezzlement. Turns out that in 6 months he had managed to steal about $5,000. He would take the store cash into the casino and gamble with it. If he won, he would make the normal bank deposit. If he lost, he would make the deposit and note in his records that we had been short the previous day. The CEO had already been focusing on that location because of the stealing and high turnover rate, but my information helped them figure out what exactly had been going on. I was thanked and sent a substantial check as a reward. My old manager was offered the manager's job, and I was offered my old job back. I declined as I had already found another job that I liked more and paid better. The gambling manager was sentenced to 1 year in jail and ordered to attend counseling for his gambling addiction. His wife divorced him and took their 3 children to California. His house was foreclosed on, and he ended up in a homeless shelter. Don't accuse me of stealing. I will get revenge. Thanks for listening.